Cool. Hello. So my name's Creber. It's so nice to be here. It really is wonderful just to see how you guys are doing things, and really exciting to hear about your move. So my name's Creber. I am a husband to Hannah and parent to Grace and Elle. I'm not really a speaker. You might find that out in a couple of minutes' time. But I think I've been asked to talk about this because simplicity is a journey that me and Hannah and as a family we've been on for a number of years, probably 5 or 6 years now, when we've been back to when a time where sort of job changes and things like that meant that we were earning a bit more money and that life was becoming a bit more comfortable, and probably we got lost a little bit in the world and felt God. Always we're searching for God, but felt God's call through us, particularly through having a more simple life. And so I'm going to share some of those thoughts. Some things I say aren't right for you. This isn't a blueprint. This isn't the way it has to be. These are my thoughts on a journey of seeking God. So we're going to look at a little bit about our culture. I'm passionate about finding Jesus in the culture that we live in. We're going to look a little bit about what simplicity is, and then talk about a couple of practical challenges for simplicity of things and simplicity around time. So the lens we're going to look at through our culture is advertising. So we are surrounded by advertising of all sorts of different types. These are sort of the highlights when you put in Google. These are the things that come up. We all know that Gillette is the best a man can get. And we know that Ronsil does exactly what it says on the tin. It's thought that the average adult, depending on our job, our time on computing and social media and things, will be exposed to between 5,000 and 10,000 glimpses of advertising per day. So we are really walloped with this stuff. Some of them are a little bit more suggestive. So Burger King, not only will they give you a burger to eat, but they will make you happy. You'll come in hungry and go home happy. And if you buy an Audi Q4 Sportback, there's a suggestion of promise of a good friend for life, or it might make you more popular. I don't know. Snickers will prevent your spelling problems and make you more productive and more on point. And a little bit of spread on your toast will provide you freedom of the countryside. John Mark Comer talks about the propaganda of more and the lie of some of this sort of lambasting or the flood of advertising from our culture. And it stems a little bit back. If you look into the history of advertising, there was a bit before the Second World War, but a lot of it comes out of that Second World War and about propaganda coming from I fear and I want. And those two things they're unconscious drives within us. They're not things that we think about that Snickers advert. We might joke about it now, but actually when we see it out and about when we're doing other things, it hits our unconscious drive. Well, do I need that? Do I need a Snickers so that I'm more productive and that my work is better today? Or am I worried about missing out? And it is a propaganda. So this guy thought to be potentially the richest man ever in relation to the society around him, John Rockefeller, and he was asked by a journalist, how much is enough? How much money is enough? He said, just a little bit more. And that's the thing about that, about our advertising, about our culture, about what we build. There's always more. It isn't satisfying. Paul Mazur of Lehman Brothers, so after the Second World War, just to whittle on a bit more about this, once America, particularly in the US, but then came over to affect our culture too, a lot of factories set up to make military stuff, to make tanks, to make bombs, all that sort of stuff. At the end of the war, when the economy is hanging by a thread, a number of leaders from different areas of society sat down and said, how are we going to rebuild? How are we going to repair? And this is their strategy. That we must shift America from a needs culture to a desires culture. People must be trained to desire, to want new things, even before the old have been entirely consumed. We must shape a new mentality. Human desire must overshadow human need. I can certainly say that that's how I live my life. I don't really live by need, I live by desire. I live by what I want. I choose what I want and I go for it. And I'm so embedded in that culture that instead of saying I want, I say I need. I need a new laptop, a new computer, a new fridge, a new something or whatever. I need it. Robert C. Roberts, who's a philosopher, says that upward mobility ends not in satisfaction and comfort, but exhaustion, disappointment, and emptiness. And I think something of my story a few years back echoed those words: exhaustion, disappointment, and emptiness. The striving for just a little bit more, and doing it again and again, day after day. And John Woolman, who's a Quaker, quite a wealthy Quaker, but a Quaker, said, with an increase of wealth, so the desire of wealth also increased. And these are the things that don't come about in the advertising. Oh, by the way, when you have that, you'll want another one, and you'll need another one, because that one won't really have hit the spot that you were trying to fill. Now these guys have a special mention. So I'm aware that social media has there's a real potential in there to have great ministry through social media. That you can reach people in their darkest point. You can reach people at home in their own environment. I'm not a minister on social media. I can't do that. When I look at Facebook, I see these gourmet dinners that people create with well-behaved children who sit around and enjoy it. These wonderful holidays that are normal, that happen all the time. And I think my life doesn't look like that. I'm missing out on what is going on with other people. Part of my story is I came off all social media apart from WhatsApp. And I found that a freeing thing to do. You might have seen this, I love this. So it is a place in New Zealand. It's a beautiful place, clearly. The top picture is the picture that goes on Instagram. The bottom picture is the person who's 100 back in the queue waiting for that selfie. People travel to the middle of nowhere to get that photo to put on their Instagram page, so that they can show other people that they had a beautiful holiday, that it was a wonderful experience, and look at what they're doing. And that's the culture that we live in, and that's the culture that I get drawn into. When I went on Facebook, what picture can I put on Facebook that tells everyone that I've got it sorted? What can I put on that shows them I'm living the life that they want to live? And I found that not to be a helpful culture for me. So I want to ask you, what is it that you need? When was the last time you said, I need? And what was it? Was it a laptop? Was it a new car? What was it that you needed? And why did you say that? Is it because God has put something on your heart to reach someone else, and in order to achieve that, that is what you need? Or is there another reason why you said that you needed it? Is it because someone else has it? Or because you think that without it you are less than who you are? It's all well good talking about things. Everyone has the same amount of time. And the other thing that I found, particularly social media, but it's all around us, is that we are pushed to be really busy. How are you? I'm okay, I'm really busy. It's just part of the way our life ticks around. But I want to ask you why. Why are you busy? And what are you busy with? Are you busy because God has called you to do those things, and everything that you're doing is a calling of God, or things that you think you should do, or benefit to others? Absolutely great. I think I'm called to lots of things. I think I'm a busy person. But there are times when I'm busy because through those little things that I think that God wants me to do, I fill with stuff that I don't need to fill with. I sit watching TV, I scroll my phone, the BBC News articles, where I just pick because it's the only one left that I haven't read. All those things that actually add and take away from what God might have called me to do. So, is there a teaching of Jesus that can help us be free from the propaganda of more? I think simplicity, because that's what we're talking about. That's something that can help. It's part of the picture. These are my words. These aren't a clever person's definition. So I'm going to read the top one and then actually sort of explain it. So, simplicity, the opposite of simplicity isn't complexity. The opposite of simplicity is superficiality. And this word duplicity, which is a new word for me when preparing this talk, not something I've heard before, but I love it. And it's the idea of duplicated motivations. So instead of you being about one thing, actually you duplicate that time, that resource, that focus to more than one thing and spread yourself about over it. So I think simplicity is about two things. The first thing is focusing on the main thing. Focusing on what matters, putting it front and centre and saying that's what matters, that's what I'm prioritising, that's what my life's about, that's how I'm going to live. The other part of it is getting rid of the other stuff. the stuff that drags us down, the stuff that catches us and that we carry and detracts us from focusing on the main thing. And I think I could talk about simplicity for hours and hours, because there's all sorts of manner of ways in life where we can hone what our life is about down. But I think to focus on time and possessions are two really good places to start. Anyone know who this guy is? Steve Jobs. So he, co-founder of Apple. See what he's wearing? Black turtleneck, blue jeans. If you Google him, you will find in every picture he is wearing black turtleneck and blue jeans. And he does that because his front and centre of his life is to bring a new technology to the world. It's probably about earning money through that as well. But that's his focus. He doesn't want to waste time in the morning thinking what clothes he's going to wear. He doesn't want to think about what clothes he's going to buy, or have have that creativity taken, or have something else to fuss about. So he wears the same stuff every day. He lives, to that point, a simple life. I don't think we should model on him though, so I think we should talk about Jesus. I think Jesus probably didn't have too many clothes in his wardrobe. I didn't think he did loads of different hobbies. I think Jesus was pretty focused about his main thing and let the other stuff, be left behind. So Luke 12 is massive, it's loads, there's loads of it. So I've just picked out various different verses and I'm skipping through it, which I know isn't ideal, but I'd encourage you to read it, the whole lot itself. But I'm just going to pick out, not the bit that illustrates what I want to say, but the bits that when I read the passage I think are prominent. So, teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. Jesus replied, who made me an arbiter between you? Then he said, watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Life isn't in an abundance of possessions. He goes on to tell the parable of the rich man who will have got a big harvest that he probably didn't sow and got others to reap for him. But he gets a lot of it and says, I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my grain and my stuff. And I will say to myself, you have plenty of good things laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool, for your life will be taken tonight, and your stuff will be left behind. Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, or what you will wear. We often use those words to comfort people who are worried or stressed about upcoming things, but I think there's a slightly different tack to it. And another translation says, do not set your heart upon. So do not set your heart upon your life, or what you will eat, or your body. Life is more than food, and the body is more than clothes. And in verse 30 it goes on to say, these things dominate the thoughts of unbelievers all over the world, but your Father already knows what your needs are. Seek the kingdom of God above all else, and he will give you everything you need. So don't be afraid, little flock, for it gives your Father great happiness to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give to those in need. This will store up treasure for you in heaven. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. I just want to add a couple of footnotes about those last two verses, particularly verse 33. There's more to it than that, but that's a huge challenge. But I don't think the tense isn't saying you should do this once and for all. Literally, we should all sell everything. There's a couple of recognitions. It's a continuous thing. So the recognition that we will have things. We will have things to sell, to share. But I think it's just about a context of we shouldn't be having stuff for us. Actually, if we have people in our community or around us or close to us that have a need, that we should be willing to share with them. And I think there's something very powerful about where your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be. When we buy stuff, we lend a bit of our heart to it. Therefore, when we get rid of it, we free a bit of our heart too, which we'll come on to in a minute. So I think simplicity of heart is about seeking his kingdom above all else, putting that front and centre, choosing it, resourcing it, and going after that, and then also getting rid of the other stuff. So we need to determine what it is that we want to put at the front and say yes to. Is that God or is it something else? We need to pick it. Don't get blown along by the wind or the stream. Pick what it is that you want to live for and live for it. A spiritual, it's very easy to say that, isn't it? Hey, I want to do that. But that's where spiritual disciplines are helpful. Because they are things where practices, things that we can do, activities, that when it's hard to seek first the kingdom of God, or we don't quite know how to do it. There are practices and things we can do to let God in and make that path a bit more clear and straightforward. So just a couple more slides. So these are the sort of the spiritual discipline practice, suggestions of things we could do. The first one is something we found in our house incredibly helpful. We've done it several times and need to do it again. And that's have a clear out. Make yourself 4 boxes. Start with your clothes, I would, because I got to the point a few years ago where I couldn't close my clothes drawer, which is not, why do you need that many clothes? We don't. And we lose the stuff we love. There's great stuff. It's okay to love stuff. Like, it's okay to really enjoy wearing a nice shirt or a nice pair of shoes. That's okay. But we don't need loads of it. So have 4 boxes. One that probably needs to go in recycling rubbish. One that you can give or sell. One to wait. Getting rid of stuff is actually it's got a piece of our heart. And actually, if someone's giving you something, or there's something really special, don't throw it away. If you don't want to, put it in a box and wait. So I'm not sure, I like it, my granny gave it to me, or my husband, or whatever, put it in a box and wait. If in the next few months you go, I really want those shoes, they're really special, go and get them, they've not gone anywhere, wear them, enjoy it, enjoy wearing those shoes. But if in 6 months' time you haven't noticed that you've put them in a box in the loft, you can get rid of them and not worry about it. And then the other thing is, the ones you want, choose them. Choose what you want in your cupboards and put them back. I haven't done the next one. I'd quite like to, I'm not quite brave enough yet. For 1 month, just buy food and cleaning products or sanitary products, things like that. See if you could do a month without buying stuff for the garden, stuff for the house. Eat out less. Not necessarily part of our culture now, but something that often in our culture as well, we feel entitled to live the good life, we tend to eat out. Or that's where I was at. And actually, if you limit that activity, that can be free. Simplicity of time. Write down everything you do in the week. Put it all on post-it notes. Put it on the table. Everything. Taking the kids swimming. Going to work. The job you might do. The many jobs you might do. The commitment at church. Put it all down. Put it all down. Metaphorically, put it before God. And say, God, this is my life in all its deeds. Put it out there and say, what do you want me to pick back up? What shall I take back up? You might not be able to do that day, it might not be that week, but do it and then come back to it and say, actually, what shall I say yes to? Is my job what you want me to do? Hopefully, because it'd be really scary to change. And see what you pick up, and then say no to the things that that God isn't wanting you to do. I'd encourage you to turn off your phone. I've come without my phone because it's Sunday. I'll try and turn it off on a Sunday. We've been looking at what Sabbath is for us as a family, which is a bit of a taboo word, I think, sometimes. And certainly in the culture I grew up in, Sabbath wasn't cool. Sabbath was boring. Sabbath was rubbish, and Sabbath was very legalistic. So we're trying to live a new Sabbath, which is where we reconnect with each other and we work out what it is as a family to pursue God together. And then I would challenge people to either leave or pause social media for a day or something like that. Some people have got a ministry with it, and that's fantastic, and I'm not saying that everyone needs to leave it, but just throwing it out there, see how that feels for you. And then maybe for you don't need to get rid of anything at all, but it's about linking the bridges and actually in the spaces, just letting space be space and not filling it with stuff that doesn't add value to what we do. The trouble with simple living is though it can be joyful, rich and creative, it isn't simple. And it isn't. By trying to live more simply, it doesn't protect us from the complexity of humanity and the complexity of relationships and trying to navigate how we follow God in our culture. Jesus, although I think he lived simply, he was down and dirty with the complexities of society. Charlie Brown's always full of wisdom, but his mate says life is difficult, isn't it, Charlie Brown? It is difficult. There's no condemnation. This isn't the blueprint. This isn't the thing to do. Life is difficult, but let's see if we can make Jesus the main thing. The final slide is just a list of stuff you might not be able to see, but it's a few bits of the Bible that are part of what was said. Apparently 25% of what Jesus said is about money and possessions. And then 3 books at the bottom that I found really helpful. John Mark Comer's Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, The Minimalists, and Richard Foster's Celebration of Discipline, if you want to look more into the topic. So we'll just have a pray, and then Glyn and Jill will come back up and lead us in a bit of response. Father God, we know that we can get lost. We get caught up in the bright lights and the signs of our culture, and we can lose our way. But Father, you are worthy of our praise, and you will welcome us back whenever we come with open arms. And Lord, it is our will to serve you. It is our will to have you directing our lives. And Lord, would you hold us close? Would you help us to seek you in all that we do? And Lord, help us to hold gently the other stuff, the good of it, but also the heart of it. Yeah, just pray that we be able to live lightly and enjoy the life that you give us, that we may live it full.